Tune into the king of sound and blues. Who can we guess as the inspiration for this video? I'm at piano. Dun 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 dun. Steadily, steadily. Or yeah. Growing up, I looked to culture to inform my outlook and understand my identity. Growing up, Ghana was a big part of this because I grew up far away from there and I had few reference points in my daily life to connect me with that context. And so music was a way to transport myself not only to Ghana but to that broader West Africa context. Let's dive more into Asake. His full name is Ahmed Ololade Asake. Was raised in Lagos Island and studied theatre arts at OAU, which, according to Native Mag, was the stomping ground for his local celebrity. He was a dancer initially as well. The reason that Ashake really stands out to me as an artist is the fact that he performs his music in a mix of Yoruba, Pidgin English, and English, and his music influences or range go across Afrobeat, Afropop, Fuji music, which I found out is a music that has its origin in Yoruba Muslim communities in southwestern Nigeria. For me, as a lover of music from the continent, what really stands out to me about artists like Ashake is the fact that their way of being is informed by their cultural context, their food, their fashion, their accent, their name. I actually have Wizkid as my favorite Afrobeat artist. I was interested to look back into the history of Ashake in preparation for this video and come across some of his songs that give me the vibe I got from Wizkid's earlier music. It's very much rooted in the culture of Nigeria. In Native Mag, noting words by Dennis Adepita, the article speaks to Ashake's musical influences, including Yoruba folk music, which come through on tracks like Trabaye and Baba God. I really love the kind of rhythm and repetition, call and response, soulful atmosphere of these kinds of tracks. They might not be the best sellers or the hits on an album or just as a solo track released, but I think that they form a really important part of the tapestry of an African artist's story. In a more recent GQ interview, Frazier Tharp delves into why Ashake has been a success. He sings in his native Yoruba tongue, while weaving in South African Amapiano house sounds alongside the typical up-tempo rhythms of Afrobeats to create a style closer to Fuji, the Yoruba music popularized by artists like Barrister in the 1970s, whom Ashake cites along with Fela Kuti as an influence. Reverse engineering a new sound out of several was hardly his intent, but rather just a natural product of his upbringing. My music is just me, Ashake says. It's not something I can really explain. The thing is, I feel like the kind of music I listened to while growing up shapes who I am. There is an element of Ashake being universal in some respects. And in his interview with Native Mag, he actually did say that he's making his own style of music presentable to everybody. That's where I'm from. I know be from rich family, but me, I love the foreign life, so my own has to be modern. This is perfectly fine for artists to have range to their repertoire and be able to connect with different audiences. Ashake in the Native Mag interview also says, the way I make my music, I go just they talk everything way in my mouth. I don't know if I'm reading that so fast, the pigeon. Learn the one you can learn and leave the one you cannot learn. Native Mag interviewer comments, that's the hallmark of a purposeful pop star, one that makes the music the way they want it, but also smart enough to put a communal spin on it, whether it's through a choral hook or easily memorable catchphrases. I think this also says a lot about the sustainability of an artist's career. It's particularly an artist like Asake, who still very much leads from a place of his Yoruba Lagos upbringing. So, a note on sustainability, and this is something I've definitely connected with in my early years, like Asake in some ways at university. It was a very pivotal environment for me growing into who I am and the interests that I do have. I was able to spend some time in South Africa for university. What I really appreciated was this idea of when you see a gap, when you see something that isn't represented, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not worthy of being represented. It just needs those eyes, those voices, those perspectives to really bring that perspective to the fore. That's exactly what I did in the Africa space with my peers because there was a clear gap. And so, as I've shared on this channel a number of times, I founded the first Africa focused society there. It was really a society that wanted to bridge the vast landscape of music, culture, economy, social dynamics, you name it. I think it's really important to just speak to that experience of doing something that maybe isn't universal and why you should lean into that and double down on it. So there was this fantastic article on Substack, and I just wanted to share a few quotes from it because I think they really speak to this theme and just see if this is resonating with you. If you're always understood, you're probably not saying much. And the more you perform agreeableness, the more you resent the audience demanding the performance. Each misunderstanding that doesn't destroy you increases your capacity for authentic expression. You develop interpretive immunity, resilience against the constant pressure to clarify, justify, and accommodate every reaction. When you stop translating, extraordinary things happen. You discover your actual audience. Not the people who need you to be different, but the ones who recognize themselves in your untranslated truth. This isn't about finding your tribe. That suggests a pre-existing community waiting to be discovered. It's about creating resonance through specificity. This is what I love about artists like Asake. They are universal, but at the same time, they're also catering to a specific audience. Specificity moving forward is truly going to be more and more of a superpower. So, more quotes. When you stop auditioning for belonging, I love this one. You realize something profound. You already belonged to yourself. Self-belonging is unconditional, not something you earn through performance, but something you recognize through presence. In his interview with GQ, Asake says, "For me to be able to do Mr. Money and people love it, that means it is inside me. It's just for me to try to always bring it out and be focused and always do it. It is inside you. I always say any artists that make a hit song, they can always make 40,000 hit songs. But it's just like if you forget yourself, then you can't make the song again. The problem is not to forget who you are." This is what I love about artists, and I think this is what you would love about the artists that you vibe with, is that it's more than just the music. It's their person, it's their story that really gravitates you toward them. Interestingly, in the article itself, the author writes there's a parallel here to how great artists have always worked. They created from their center outward, trusting that specificity would find its own resonance. The result wasn't exclusion, but precision, work that spoke directly to the people capable of receiving it. When you stop translating yourself for mass consumption, you discover that the people who matter, the ones capable of real connection, were waiting for the untranslated version all along. They were hoping you'd stop performing and start existing, stop explaining and start being. Moving beyond just the African context, I really also started to plant the seeds for this video when Bad Bunny had all the press over his Super Bowl performance. And the fact that it was the first time that a performance had been done completely in another language, his language being Spanish, I really felt that it reminded me that specificity, as we've been saying, is truly a superpower. The pride, the identity, the representation, the exuberance that that performance brought to people from the Latin, South American communities was really incredible. I really feel like that is what makes me so energized by listening to music from West Africa, because I have that connection to that place and to that context. But beyond just beats, it's really the rhythm that just reminds you of who you are. And that is something that you can lead with beyond the music space as well. No matter what industry that you're in, no matter what goal you're trying to achieve, I really love myself carrying culture with me forward. These videos, I start with an idea, and honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised to see where this train of thought actually led me to, right? Because I started off being like, Bad Bunny's performance really reminded me of the pride I feel when I see artists like Asake making it big on the global stage, but staying true to who they are. And then I thought about this idea of how Ashake's music being in Yoruba, Pidgin English, in English being an amalgamation of all those things, and him being so dynamic as an artist and interesting, that yeah, like we as humans can be that too. We are not here to appeal to everybody. And then it brought me to thinking about, okay, music that is kind of formally at the peripheries, African genres of music being some of those. I was like, hold on a second. I remember in 2024, the Grammys introduced a new category of Best African Music Performance. And we know that Thames won in that category, Tyler won in that category. It'll be interesting to see who else won in that category. Asake and Olamide were nominated for Amapiano. Amapiano. Dun 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 dun. Steadily, steadily. Or yeah. I know I have an Ashake fan watching, so literally a great track. City Boys by Burna Boy was nominated. Unavailable Davido featuring Musa Keys. Rush Iris Star as well was in that category. It was interesting because the introduction of this category, according to the Recording Academy CEO Harvey Mason Jr., was the changes were to reflect our commitment to actively listen and respond to the feedback from our music community, accurately represent a diverse range of relevant musical genres, and stay aligned with the ever-evolving musical landscape. I was like, we're talking about the Grammys, but what, like, does Africa have a Grammys? What is happening in terms of the entertainment and media industry on the continent? I know that there are other pressing priorities which we speak about on this channel, but in terms of the arts, culture, entertainment space, I think we can dream in this generation of Africa to have more spaces on the continent itself to recognize and celebrate our talents. Of course, it's excellent to see this global recognition, and it is cool when I hear these artists playing in my local shops. It still kind of feels surreal that the music has actually reached a universal level. But part of me also is interested in seeing how Africa itself can benefit from this industry. And of course, infrastructure is a great place to start. There was a Forbes Africa article by Chanel Retief, which drew from a PwC report, Africa Entertainment and Media Outlook for 2024 to 2028, Resilience and Reinvention. There was emphasis there on the fact that there's going to be huge growth in the entertainment and media industry in South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya, their markets. But my thinking is, what infrastructure, policies, and frameworks and support systems are in place to capitalize on this growth? In the report, it says the future of Africa's entertainment and media sector is one set to be characterized by transformation driven by rapid technological advancements, evolving consumer behaviors, and an increasingly digital savvy population. Central to this evolution is the continued rise of mobile first content consumption. consumption as smartphones and affordable data plans become the main access points for media across the continent. As internet penetration deepens and connectivity improves, particularly through 4G and 5G network expansions, the accessibility and quality of digital media will improve dramatically, opening new doors for content creators and distributors. As we know on this channel, as we've spoken about, there are huge infrastructure needs in places like Ghana, and connectivity is not just an issue for the entertainment and media industry, but also just for the livelihood and the civic participation of young people who are in, for example, rural areas. We also, as we've spoken about before in this channel, need to look at connectivity as a essential part of Africa's transformation. Also in the article, it did speak about, or in the PwC report, it did give some guidance on how these infrastructure policies and frameworks and support systems can materialize. And it says a robust and adaptive regulatory environment will be critical for sustainable growth across the entertainment and media ecosystem. Governments and policymakers will need to balance fostering innovation and investment with protecting intellectual property rights and ensuring fair competition. Public-private partnerships and industry collaborations will be required to build the necessary infrastructure and digital skills development programs. There is so much in that, and the implementation plans for all of those will be quite something else. I think this was the theme of, as I shared, I think I might have shared in a video, I'm pretty sure I did share in a video. I attended Entertainment Week Ghana, the launch, I believe it was the launch of Entertainment Week Ghana in Accra last year or earlier this year. And it was interesting because they were speaking about the content creator, or I should say the creator economy, and how this is an opportunity that the country needs to tap into. But I know myself and other young people were asking the question of, okay, we need to tap into this, but how is that going to happen when there isn't any real infrastructure, policies, and support? But the whole idea of Entertainment Week Ghana is to build some of these resources into the mix: masterclasses, hackathons, or like pitch events. You know, the classic things that we see happen. I think this is a troubling and an exciting time for young Africans. According to the PwC report, now is the time to engage as Africa is transforming. They are saying that the way forward is going to be through strategic partnerships, through data-driven insights and future-focused thinking. And I think all of these things are what a young, youthful, vibrant, ideas-rich, youthful population in Africa and also in the diaspora is bringing to the table. So I would love to end the video now and thank you for tuning in to this week's video. I would love to hear from you about any artists that really strike you as ones who are able to navigate both relevancy but also remain true to their roots. I would also love to hear your thoughts on the entertainment and media industry in Africa, if you have opinions on that and what that could potentially contribute to Africa's transformation. I really think that artists and music and culture, all in that umbrella, really, I'd love to speak more about that on the channel as well. So until I see you in the next video, take care. Madasipa, Yaveshia. I'll see you next time.